I think the most important thing, Mitch, would be for listeners to understand that although we have almost 400 markets in the United States and then many more around the world, you can break them down into three primary types of markets: linear markets, cyclical markets, and hybrid markets.
This is Mitch, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I have Jason Hartman here with me today. Man, what a go-getter this guy's. He can keep so many balls up in the air. He's like a juggling act all the time, and I admire that because
I do the same
thing. So we're into multiple streams of income. We're into diverse things, and it just keeps our mind rolling because apparently we get bored easy. We're gonna talk about all kinds of things, mostly about the economy and about doing business from afar. Like if you live in one of those places that's too expensive or you just don't like the atmosphere where you're at, you don't have to stay there. You're gonna do some business in other parts of the country. And Jason's really, really good at that. We met at a mastermind. We've been friends ever since. You're gonna love this. Jason Hartman, how you doing today?
Good, Mitch. It's great to be here.
Okay, so I'm reading this bio, and it's about 10 miles long. So this is the biggest thing I got out of it. It's like you've done business in like 11 states and like 17 cities, and then you have these multiple podcasts that you do covering different topics or niches, I guess, and you do that from wherever you are in the world, and you are a traveling son of a gun, aren't you?
Yeah. I've been to 81 countries now, and I'm, on my last several trips, I haven't increase my country count because I just keep going back to the same places over and over. So, yeah.
Well, but there's a talent and a real talent to be able to set up your life so that you can do that. And you have set up your life so you operate from wherever you are. And that's not easy, is it?
Yeah. Well, it's not always easy. Sometimes it's easier in some ways. Look, I didn't set it up. All the technocrats set it up. I mean, they're the ones that made it all possible with all this great technology we have nowadays. But I read the book that's influenced many people, The 4-Hour Workweek, back in 2008. And I felt really stuck living in Orange County, California. I lived in Newport Beach at the time. And I was just really 2008, I didn't live in Newport Beach, or maybe I did. I don't know. I can't keep the exact. Irvine, Newport Beach, one of those two areas, and Newport Coast. And, I moved around within Orange County, but I was just bored with it, honestly. And I knew in 2003 that there was going to be another big cycle in the real estate market. And I had so many years in traditional real estate before that. I owned a real estate company. I sold it to Coldwell Banker in 2005. And I knew there was going to be another cycle. And I thought, this time I'm going to be wiser. I'm going to prepare for it. And I'm going to diversify nationwide. Now, we both love real estate. We have a different approach to it. You have a very successful approach with what you do. And I hope I have a very successful approach with what I do too. I believe that income property is the most historically proven asset class in the entire world. And I also believe that all real estate is local. All real estate is local. And so one of the things you hear about on investing is, you hear about, well, you should diversify, right? Because diversification reduces risk. And I think that's true. But why not take the most historically proven asset class, income property, but diversify geographically? Because all real estate is local, right? And so be in at least 3 markets, but not more than 5. Now, at one time, I was in 11 states and 17 cities of properties I owned personally. That was a mistake. Please don't do that. That was a mistake. I over-diversified. I made this mistake of taking my California brain, where real estate was really expensive, and going to all these other markets where real estate was really inexpensive. And my eyes were bigger than my stomach. Hey, these properties are only 100,000. Let's buy 5 of them. Buy 5 more over there.
That happens a lot. You see people come from California down or from
any expensive market, New York.
They come down to San Antonio and they see $40,000 houses.
Right, yeah.
But there's a reason why they're 40,000. That's where there's a threshold for people.
And I'm not saying the properties were a mistake. I'm just saying I personally made the mistake of over diversifying. And it became very difficult to manage all of those different markets and things. I do believe you should be in at least 3 markets, not more than 5. And the reason I pick those numbers is you can keep track of that in your head. You know, you can know you've got 1 county to pay taxes to. You've got, you know, 1 sort of governmental environment. You probably only have 1 property manager for each market. And it's much easier to keep track of that. You know, so at least 3 markets, not more than 5. That's my rule.
What are your favorite 3 markets these days?
Oh, you know, Mitch, that's an impossible question to answer. That's like asking
where the best deal is, huh?
That's but like asking a parent who's their favorite kid, you know. It's very, very tough. They probably have a favorite, but they're not going to tell you. So maybe I'll say that too. But you know, I don't know. I'm not saying they're terribly different. I mean, look, our longest running market is Indianapolis. We've been in that one the longest, and that's probably going on 11 years now, maybe 10, 11 years. And when I say we, I mean my company. We help clients do this too. And we help clients buy properties nationwide and build nationwide portfolios, as you know, but your listeners don't. And so that's a great market. Memphis has been a perennial great market. But there are many others. You know, in a country as large and diverse as the United States, there's really about 400 markets, about 400 markets. So there's a lot to choose from out there.
So I've heard you say that, you know, that it's just wrong to talk about the United States real estate market, because you can't say that really, because it varies from, you know, in 100 miles, it can change like drastic.
Hey, you know, you and I know it can change a lot quicker than that. I mean, you go to a high density place like New York City and the whole environment changes in 3 blocks. You know, I mean, you know, in San Antonio where you are, I mean, you know, you cross a big road and the neighborhoods will be very different on the other side of that road, right? So, you know, all real estate is local. It goes neighborhood by neighborhood, no question about it.
So, you know, I'm fond of storages. Are you mostly doing apartment complexes, or are you doing something different than that?
The most thing I do single family homes. That's my biggest. That's my bread and butter. It's my biggest thing. But I also own with one of my clients a 139 unit apartment complex and a 120 unit mobile home park. And then I got a small 10 unit apartment building as well. And then the rest is just single family. And what were you saying before? You said something a moment ago. I really wanted to comment on that about the
storages.
No. Before that, it was
the United States market.
Yeah. The misleading thing that you hear about in the media is you hear these experts on the news, or you know, you read about them and they talk about the housing market. You know, where the hell is the housing market? You know, is it in San Antonio?
Which one are you talking about?
Yeah, which one of the 400 are you talking about? Is it San Antonio, Los Angeles, Austin, Little Rock, Indianapolis, Memphis?
I can attest. Yeah. When California went down, San Antonio didn't feel it for like 8 months.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean? We were like, well, we hear about it, we're getting ready for it, but the prices really didn't start moving.
I agree. You know, there's a processional effect to the way these markets affect each other, and they change at different times, and you can exploit that as an investor. You know, you can kind of arbitrage those differences and those distortions in the market. So that's a good thing. And you know, I think the most important thing, Mitch, would be for listeners to understand that although we have almost 400 markets in the United States and then many more around the world, you can break them down into 3 primary types of markets: linear markets, cyclical markets, and hybrid markets. And I'll be happy to unpack that as much as you want.
Please, let's start with linear.
Okay, so linear markets are markets that you and I both like. I know we agree on that. You know, San Antonio is a pretty linear market, and we like San Antonio. That's a good market. Okay, that's one we'd recommend. And funny, I didn't mention it before, but yeah, San Antonio is a good one. And in linear markets, if you're looking at a graph, okay, you know, where you've got time on one side and value on the other, or maybe time's on the bottom, and you know, the linear market just kind of chugs along and does its thing. It's a steady Eddie market, okay?
Yeah, no real highs, no real lows, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it has little ups and downs, but they're not hugely significant. They won't help you win the lottery, and they won't ruin you financially either. Okay, they're just consistent. Okay, and over time, they just sort of work really well. The cyclical markets, on the other hand, are the opposite. You know, this is maybe like the tortoise and the hare, right? The old fable.
Yeah, like Florida or Nevada or maybe
Yeah.
even Los Angeles, huh?
LA would definitely be a cyclical market. South Florida is a cyclical market, not the rest of Florida, though, just South Florida, like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, those are pretty cyclical. The expensive markets in the northeastern United States, New York, Washington, Boston, really all of the west coast of the United States, because anything from San Diego on up to Seattle is pretty cyclical, okay? All of that. And then, and those are the cyclical markets. Around the world, those are places like Hong Kong, Dubai, Singapore, Paris, London. Okay, those are cyclical markets too. Most of the world is a linear market. Most of the world is just a steady eddy, kind of go along type of market. And then you have the hybrid markets, which, as the name would imply, are in between the two. Good examples of the US of hybrid markets are places like Austin, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Denver, Colorado. I was just there a few days ago. Denver's a hybrid, and Phoenix is a hybrid. These are markets that, as the name would imply, are in between the two. They do have some more pronounced cycles, but they're not crazy like Los Angeles or or Seattle, right? They're less pronounced, okay, than that, but more so than linear. And so we like to invest in linear markets because linear markets, at least as I've gotten older and more conservative, they are the thing that just works over time. You invest for yield, for cash flow, and over time you get your returns. Yeah, it's not going to go up $300,000 next month, but it's not going to go down $300,000 next
Like in San Antonio, I've always taken great comfort in that. I make my money when I buy, or I create my equity when I buy, and appreciation doesn't even work into my formula. There is no place, there is no variable for appreciation.
Yeah.
And if I get some, I get some, and if I don't, I don't.
It's icing on the cake. Look, I can spend that money just as well as the next guy, but I'm not going to plan on it. Appreciation is not reliable. In all my years in this business, I've never met anybody who could reliably predict the cycles. And look, if you don't believe me, if you think the next guru can reliably predict the ups and downs in the market, why don't you ask yourself, why can't the chairman of the Federal Reserve predict the ups and downs in the market? They can't do it either. And they've got way more information and obviously more control than we do. They can't even figure it out. Okay. There's a feedback loop in any of the centrally planned, over-managed economy and banking system that we have that takes years to play out. So when the Fed does something today, you don't know what the result of that is for a long time. So they're always looking in the rearview mirror. Even the people that control the system don't know what it's going to do, okay? So how can you or me or some guru out there predict the cycles accurately?
Everyone's asking me, I'm sure they're asking you, when's the next recession coming? And my humble opinion was, if the presidential election hadn't gone the way it'd gone, we'd already be in one.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, the Hillary economy would have been a disaster compared to the Trump economy.
Because I was looking offshore. I was looking at all kinds of things that never, ever crossed my mind in my 57 years.
Yep.
But now that we have this capitalist, pushing the buttons. Mm-hmm. I think the optimism of the small businessman, in at least the small business, is pushing it out. It's pushing it out.
Yeah, no question about it. No question about it. Look, love or hate Donald Trump, but he is good for the economy. Okay,
I agree. And I watched some of those town halls.
Job to America for the first time for the first time in 41 years. Americans have had a real dollar adjusted for inflation increase in their wages. It's been 41 years. It's been since 1977, Mitch, since there has been a real dollar increase in wages adjusted for inflation. And these trade deals, I can't stand the way the media.
Can we hold on right there? Can we hold?
Sure.
The reason why it was a real dollar adjustment is because everyone was at work and employers had to start paying more. A capitalistic supply and
demand. Yeah.
A supply and demand reason why they had to start paying more to get good people. I noticed it in my office. I used to be able to get people for $11 and $12 an hour to do certain things, that were not super brainiac stuff. Yeah. I got to pay $15 now to get this done.
Oh yeah,
because
no question. Yeah.
No one's showing up at. Yeah. The quality of people showing up at 11's not good.
Well, those are the former $8 people that are showing up for 11 now. Yeah. So
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you there, and then you went on. You were going on.
Well, I cannot stand the way the media, with these idiotic sound bites, whether they be on television, radio, or in the Wall Street Journal for that matter, the way they cover these trade deals. I mean, USA Today is so biased and elementary, it's ridiculous. I mean, don't even read that junk. But they cover only the negative side. They keep talking about how, okay, with the trade war, that Trump has basically ignited, the cost of everything's going to go up. Okay, so what? The trade is you can either have a job or you can pay a little more for stuff. I'd rather have a job. And you know why? Because I'm not going to spend all my money. When I make,
you can elect not to buy some things too.
Exactly.
You can elect to buy it not. If they make it too expensive, opt out. I don't need that today, or I'll do something else.
Exactly. And you know what? Maybe we don't need so much junk anyway. Okay.
Hey! I have storages. Cut that talk out. We need to.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Self-storage guy here. But seriously, we have jobs coming back to the U.S., higher paying jobs. And this is like the glory days of the post-World War II boom times. Okay. This is what is now happening again in the US because these trade deals that have been made by other presidents, both Democrat and Republican, by the way, I'm not being partisan here. They both sold everybody down the river. Okay. Absolutely. Both sides have. And they have just ruined it for the American worker. And finally, that is shifting back. It is shifting back in our direction. And the new tax plan is awesome. I mean, it's going to save me a ton of money in my business. You know what I've been doing, Mitch? For the past 2 months, I thought, okay, look, I started talking to my CPA. I, always file my taxes on extension. So I always file at the last minute, like many people. Yes. And I asked him, I said, how much money am I going to save under the new tax plan, starting this year? And, it looks like it's somewhere around $400,000 a year in savings. And I thought, I got to figure out a way now to spend that money and put it back into the economy. So in the last 8 weeks, I have hired 41 contractors, and I am now spending, and these are freelancers that just, do odd things for us, different tasks and things that we were not spending money on. We are now spending an extra maybe $23,000 to $25,000 per month, okay, on all of these people. That money is flowing through the economy. This is exactly what we call trickle-down economics, okay? It is, I don't want to keep the money for myself. I want to spend it. I want to grow. And
people think like, when the rich make more money, they open up more businesses. They do more things. It's their nature. They don't really know how not to expand. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to expand. Just like you just said.
Yeah. But even if they don't expand, even if they're hoarders, right? That money goes somewhere. It's invested. It's, someone else is working with that money. So it's not like, money can't sleep. It's not allowed to sleep. If you don't, unless you bury it in your mattress or equity in your house, it's kind of sleeping then, okay? Yeah. It can't sleep. It's invested. It's doing something. Someone is using that money to do something. If you put it in the bank, someone is taking out a loan on the other side and expanding the economy with that.
So we have about, I don't know, just a couple of minutes left, but everyone's asking me, and I'm sure they're asking you, when do you think the next recession is coming? I'll put my 2 cents in, and then you tell me what you think. I think there might be some adjustments because I'm not sure that it can keep rocketing the way that it's going. It may level out or stop. I'm even seeing more expensive houses in my part of Texas slow down. Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, starting to slow down, which is usually an indicator, but it doesn't mean it's going to crash. But I think, I will see if I'm right or I'm wrong, but I think as long as this president's president, I don't think it's going to crash.
Well, he can't control everything, okay?
Right. But I think that he pushes forward. I mean, if it crashes on his watch, it's time for the cleansing to happen. There's always another recession coming, right?
Right. There's always one coming. It's the business cycle. The business cycle is always out there. And I mean, look, rates are going up. The high-end cyclical markets are cooling off dramatically. If you look at high-priced homes, now that's market dependent. What high price means, it means something different everywhere. Like you said, San Antonio, you're noticing the slowdown. You see it in Southern California. You're seeing it everywhere. There's no question that higher priced properties are slowing. Absolutely no question about that. Interestingly, the lower end properties that we help people buy, $100,000, $120,000, $200,000 rental properties are still booming. But eventually, these higher interest rates and higher costs of money will trickle through the system, and even that will slow. But I teach something on my podcast and at my live conferences called the 3 dimensions of real estate. And in the 3 dimensions of real estate, I teach people how higher interest rates ultimately mean higher rents. They put upward pressure on rents. The only problem with all of this stuff, Mitch, is you can always make money by adjusting your strategy. That's the beautiful thing about income property. It's a multi-dimensional asset class, but there is a waiting period, okay? There is a transition time, okay, that this has to work through the system, and that's how long you have to last. So if you invest in cyclical, crazy, high-flying markets, most people don't make it through the transition time. They can't afford to. The market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent, as the saying goes, right? And so in the linear markets, you have the luxury, because you bought a sensible property in the first place, of making it through the transition time. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah. And let's talk about that. Those medium houses, or the bread and butter houses, they're still moving, and they're still doing well. And I'm able to owner finance mine. I'm sure you're able to rent them, no problem. But they're not getting multiple offers on them anymore. They used to get, when I was trying to buy a $150,000 house around here, in the first day, if it was even close to being a deal, I mean, it was getting 3 and 4 and 5 offers on it, above the asking price. That slowed down a little bit here too. So, the owner finance strategy actually does very well in the recession, because I back into the rents to come up with the owner financed value. And in the recession, the rents usually go up because no one can buy anything. So there's a lot of pressure put on rents.
Right. Yep. Upward pressure on rents. When
I don't want to say that I'm praying for a recession, but it's not going to hurt my feelings.
Well, listen, I'll tell you something, and I hope I don't regret saying this. I'm looking forward to a slowdown. For my company, helping people buy properties nationwide, this is a very difficult market in which to operate. It's too crazy. And let me tell you something else. There's a funny thing I've noticed over, I've been through this for many cycles. Okay. I've been through several recessions in my career. And what I have noticed is that when times are good, boom times, we all kind of love it, right? But it does not bode well for human character, in my opinion. And here's what I mean by that. When times are booming, all the weasels and sleazy operators come out of the woodwork, because it's really easy to get by. The rising tide will float all ships, even the bad ones. Okay. And in a moderate economy with, a stable kind of environment, or even a recession, you got to be good. You got to care about, you got to go the extra mile. You got to work for it. And you just deal with better people. Right now, and a lot of these are the same people, but it's just situational, right? Their character just gets bad when things are booming. They take it for granted. They don't have to earn it. It's not good for human character.
Too easy.
It's too easy. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up because I know you got a busy schedule, and I'm so honored that you took the time to do this. I've been trying to get this interview with you for a long time, and you're a busy man. You're in demand. Tell us a little bit about the podcast. You have a lot of them, but tell us the ones you want to bring to the forefront, and maybe tell us about your mastermind or whatever you got going on.
Yeah, thanks. So my website is jasonhartman.com. It's just my name, JASONHARTMAN.com, jasonhartman.com. My most popular podcast is one of the oldest out there. It's been running for 14 years now. It's called The Creating Wealth Show. And just type Jason Hartman on any podcast platform you use, and you can find that. And I've got a mastermind group called the Venture Alliance, venturealliancemastermind.com, and all kinds of stuff. We've got an event coming up in Hawaii. Mitch, you should join us for that event, by the way.
I would love to.
That would be good if you can make it. It's in early November. We call that Profits in Paradise. It's our first one in Hawaii. And so that's a 2-day conference. And we do live conferences. We had Ron Paul speak at our last big conference in January, and podcasts and so forth. And just doing the thing, educating people and helping them make good decisions with their money, and helping them avoid the modern version of organized crime known as Wall Street.
Hey, and I've seen some of the people that in your mastermind. You got some pretty heavy hitters there. And when I say that, I mean brainiacs. They're sharp people.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. Well, this is Mitch Stephen with the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I am so glad that you stopped by to get you some Jason Hartman. Please check out his podcast or check out his mastermind. He's a really brilliant person. I met him in a mastermind, and we had I had the privilege to spend quite a bit of time with him for a year, and definitely a brilliant mind. I hope you're all achieving your goals. I think it's about time to get out of here. Let's say goodbye, Jason. We'll see everybody later.
Happy investing, everyone.